Hello everybody, welcome to episode 6 of the AdvancedVape build guide. So today we're going to do something I've never done before. Um, so yeah, we're just going to try it and see how it works out. Never done it at all, definitely not on camera. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to be building on something harder again than the 4-post and the parallel that we did past couple episodes. We're going to be building on a 3-post. So I've built on a lot of 3-posts before, but I've never done it with the wire that we're going to be using today. So this is the Freak Show. If I can get it to focus. There we go. Yeah, this is a Freak Show RDA, and it's a 3-post. And I'll explain what this wire is in just a second. So with a 3-post, you can do dual coils, you can do single coils, but if you're doing dual coils, which is what we're doing today, both coils, one of the legs on each of them needs to share this center post. So you got one coil going in here, one coil going in here, and both of them having a leg in the middle one. So that makes it significantly harder, especially with larger wire. So today I'm going to be trying to put vertebrae in there. And the reason why I have just a little strand of vertebrae in there right now is it's a quick way to check and see if there's even enough room to fit 2 strands inside these post holes. So I just went ahead and got a little tiny length of it and folded it in half and stuffed it through there just to see if it's possible to fit in there. And it is. So at least I know that it's possible, but it's going to be a little bit difficult. So I'm just going to take my time on it and see if we can get it to work. And I'm going to be using this jig today. It's kind of hard to see because of the light, but it has numbers on it that correlate to the different diameters along the jig. So like 1.5 would be this bar right here. That's a 1.5 millimeter diameter. So I'm going to be doing it on the 3, so this one right here. And I'm going with vertebrae. So you would wrap it just like you would any other jig. I'm going to do 8 wraps. So this is going to be a really tight fit on the Freak Show, but I'm going to give it a try. There's our first one. And we'll do our second one real quick. Okay, I'm just pulling down really hard to get them as tight as they can be on there. Okay. It's being a little bit springy, but it's okay. So, like I was talking about, the center post, that's what brings the difficulty on this 3-post. Normally, in a 4-post or a velocity or something, you put one coil in, tighten them down, tighten down both of the leads, snip them and make it look okay, and then go on to the next one. And each leg has its own screw. But on this one, I can't put in one, tighten it down, and put in the other one. I have to put them both in at the same time, loose, and try and get both of them to be captured with this screw. So it makes it harder. Okay, so I'm going to put this in and trim it. I apologize about the focus. Okay, so now I'm just going to leave that there, right like that. Let's see if I can move my camera down so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better. Okay. So I'm going to go on and pre-trim this one. Okay, so I need to be holding this coil as I'm pushing the other one in, otherwise the two legs can kind of meet in the middle and push each other out. You want them to be far enough in the post hole that the screw can capture them, but they don't necessarily have to be laying side by side. Okay, so I've got them both pushed in there. I'm not sure if it'll capture both of them. We're going to try it out. I always want to start by tightening down this center screw. And as I'm tightening, I can feel both coils move if they're both being captured. You know, sometimes it can be a little misleading because you can feel them move, but they're not actually captured. But we'll see. Okay, I've got them both captured there. And now before I tighten down these outer legs, this is a bottom airflow RDA, so I need to get these coils lined up with this airflow, and I'm just going to adjust it over a little bit before I tighten down the outer leg. Just to get the rough placement of it. This is a lot of wraps to fit on this RDA. These are the exact same type of screws and the same Allen wrench, excuse me, that go into the velocity. So I know that I can tighten it down pretty hard without it stripping out these grub screws because they're nice and big. Okay. Still got some juice in the air holes from the last build, but I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now I'm going to try and get them in their final placement. Any RDA that has these airflows along the outer rim, you need to be really careful that the coil doesn't protrude past that rim and touch the chimney as you put it down. It'll short it out. So this right here is going to be really close. We'll have to see if that causes a short or not. So with them both being in this post and having to move it over to the middle because of the design of this, you're going to get a little bit of overlap on this leg, having to stretch this way to meet that center post. So that's okay. That's just how this particular 3-post is designed. The coil wants to lay right here, but you have to force it over to lay right here because of the airflow. So now I'm going to put it on my mod. And on an ohm meter or an ohm reading, you would expect that this build will have between a 0.12 and a 1.4. Okay, 1.5 is close enough. Try and move my camera back up. Okay, now I'm going to check for a short by putting the chimney on. And I normally just kind of turn it. Check. The DNA 200 requires you to push the button for it to read the ohms. That's why I'm tapping it. Okay, we're looking pretty solid. So now we can move on to dry burning. It looks like our placement is good. And we don't have any shorts. So like I try and do in all the videos is start off with the ceramic. And finish by brushing. Just brushing really lightly. And that gets it firing pretty evenly. Vertebrate is surprisingly very easy to dry burn and get to fire correctly. You'd think that because it's all these wires intertwined and everything that it would be a pain, but it's actually one of the easier ones. It's easier than Clapton is. I don't know why that is, but that looks pretty perfect. Yep, looks pretty good. I'm going to double check one more time for shorts. Looks okay. It's dropping in resistance because it's cooling down. But if it was a short, it would drop way down. All right, we're ready to move on to wicking. Come on now. Getting a little bit of coil movement there, but not enough to disrupt how it's firing. Gotta find my scissors. A little bit of dust on there. I'm just pulling that out of there. So I've noticed this is actually a really good tool to get the wick down in there, so I'm going to be using it for that also. On this RDA, the wick channels are kind of placed this way at an angle to accommodate the airflow hole. So you kind of just pack it down in there. That wick might be just a little bit too long. Well, I'm surprised the vertebrae didn't give me any trouble going into a 3-post. I was expecting it to be more difficult than it was. So any bottom airflow RDA, and this one in particular is a perfect example of it, can get a little bit of leaking when you, sorry, I was moving stuff out of the way. When you put juice on the coil, if you just kind of drip it in there all fast or pour it down on there, it'll run right along the coil and down into the airflow and leak down in there. So that's kind of an issue with every bottom airflow RDA, a little bit less with the Kennedy than something like this, but you just need to be careful the way that you put the juice on there. You want to kind of paint it on instead of lathering it on quickly. So I'm just kind of slowly painting it on there. It's easy to drip with this kind of bottle, but it would work the exact same with like a glass bottle with a dropper or whatever. Just slowly paint it on there. And you can pulse fire just a little bit to get it to soak in quicker. If you watch as I pulse fire it, it just kind of soaks right in. As it's heating up, it makes the juice thinner, so it flows faster. So it's okay to get a little bit of seeping from the juice down into these channels, because as you breathe in, it's just going to pull the juice right back up and hit the coil. So not a big deal, but if you really lather it on there, you'll get quite a bit of juice loss. So I always make sure that my drippers are really super juiced up at first. The first couple hits I'll have to burn some of that off before I get any clouds, but I'll know that there's no dry cotton. And see, I've got a little bit of leaking down in there. But my first breath in is going to pull that up into the coil. Line up the airflow. And let's give it a shot. So as you can see, because I breathed in there, it just pulled the juice right back up. Bottom airflow RDAs always have really impressive flavor, and this one isn't an exception. So it does have some leaking issues. If you say you just take this off and pour juice down in there, you're gonna get leaking. So I always take the whole cap off and paint it on there. You gotta be a little more patient with it, but I like the flavor on it. Nice big clouds. Kind of makes a little bit of a funny noise when that juice is in the channel and you're pulling it back up. But it's better than whistling. Let's try a little bit more. And let's crank it up. I'll go to 75. Really dense, strong flavor. And not too hot at 75 watts. It's so much air going straight to that coil that it keeps it from getting too hot. It's just kind of a cool, dense sort of vape. All right, so fogged up the room. That'll bring us to the end of episode 6. So if you like this video, leave us a comment, or if you have any questions, just drop a comment, send an email, let us know. Or if you have any recommendations for another video that you'd like to see in the build guide, just let us know.